Greetings to all you bears and lions. Hello everyone. I'm Steve Meeker. This is Dr. Heath Morrison. Good to have you again with us today, Dr. Morrison.
Great to be here. Thanks for taking the opportunity to do this.
Well, it's been quite a school year, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
Just thinking about the first time we sat down and visited last July when you'd just gotten here.
Yeah.
We were unsure what the school year was going to look like, if we would have face-to-face classes or even how would it all work out. But now looking back over the year, what are some of the things that have stood out to you as some of the successes that we've experienced through this very, very unusual year?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Meeker, it's I have my director of communications who says we use the word unprecedented too much, but you know, I'm on the phone with superintendents across Texas, across the country, just about every day, just checking and seeing how things are and trying to make sure we're all bringing the best solutions we can to support our teachers and our students and our communities. And it has been unprecedented, just dealing with COVID, starting off the year. When I first got here, we didn't have a plan to come back, so trying to put that plan together, you know, trying to get the guidance from TEA, you know, were we going to be able to come back, remote, synchronous, asynchronous. But you know, here's the thing, from global pandemics to tornadoes and hurricanes and brownouts and freezes and just all the things that have just like one after the other. You know, I think about what has happened, and our district has, you know, an amazing success of getting our kids back into school. We're at 95% of our kids in in-person instruction.
That's been really impressive, I think, by 95%.
And then, you know, following all the restrictions and the protocols and the contact tracing, we've had really some of the lowest rates of having to quarantine staff and students. And so when you think about all the complexities of that, and we've still delivered great instructional programming. We've been able to have our events. We've had proms this year. We're having kindergarten graduations. We're going to be having our high school graduations. You know, we put on awards programs. We've had activities. We've got phenomenal sports events. We've got playoffs, you know, number 2 softball team in the country. There's just so much to celebrate, and that really is because of the employees of this district, great teachers, great support staff, great administrators, a board that really has given us great direction, in a community that encourages us, supports us, and cheerleads us. So I think about all the things and how we got to yes rather than saying no, that really made for a really, really successful year, but has been a challenge, and I think everybody will be ready for some summer vacation.
Exactly. I'd give credit to our students too.
Students have been phenomenal.
Right. Very cooperative about the masks and all the other, going with this direction and that direction in the hallway. And
you know, and I can't help but concur and say amen to that. It's when I go into our schools this year, they have been following, you know, the guidance is challenging that it's been. As I was talking to our students about could they have a prom, what would graduations have to look like, you know, they've just been great about thinking out of the box, trying to not feel like what wasn't happening, but being very appreciative of what has happened, and they deserve an immense amount of credit. And again, there's just so many reasons to celebrate Montgomery ISD, and very fortunate to be the superintendent of an amazing school district.
It's great to be a Montgomery Bear or
a Lion.
Oak Hills Lion, right? Well, now the last time we spoke, raising employee compensation was a big focus for this district. Now, teachers have just received letters detailing what their salary would be for next year. Now, I've been at this for 41 years. This is the first time that I've ever actually known what I was going to make before I signed my contract, which I just did today.
All right, good. Got you for another year.
Exactly, one more time at least.
Yeah.
And so it's a welcome first. And so are you pleased with how the salary situation has turned out?
Am I pleased? We are not where we need to be on compensation. We know that we've got amazing employees. So it wasn't just our teachers who got their salary letters. This week it was all employees, and we owe our employees that what you make should not be a mystery. You should know, and that's respectful to say, here's your contract, and by the way, here's the compensation. So it is not enough. There's more work to be done. And that's the work that's going to continue, because making sure that we don't just give lip service to saying we've got great employees, but to compensate them appropriately, that is going to continue to be the focus. What I am immensely proud of, and I'm really thankful for great leadership that has helped along the way, our senior leadership team, our Human Resources Department,
Right.
Our principals who early on in the year where we said, okay, let's examine and look at the data and how big is the compensation issue. And then once we recognized that this was going to take a lot of effort, they've been all in from the, recognizing the problem to helping to identify solutions to the communication. All of it has just taken an immense amount of work, and our board has not ever wavered from that this has to be a high priority. So
Right.
I am really pleased that when you think about the fact that coming here last year, the board had just passed the budget. It wasn't balanced. We got it balanced. We were able to do the mid-year raise, and at the time I was very clear. I wanted our employees to think of that as a down payment, so we did that 2%. And then to come back this year and be able to add an additional 3% for all employees, and additional approximately 5% for our teachers. So over basically a year period, it's 5% for all employees and 7% for our teachers. I'm really proud of that. And then the other things with the salary letters, the compensation plan, they're all tools and mechanisms for people to get a really good sense of how to understand their compensation. And I want people to feel that that advocating for their compensation, making sure we got it right. I've had so many employees say, I have a question, is it okay if I ask? It's absolute. It's your salary. We appreciate that you do this out of love and passion, but it's your salary, so we want you to ask those questions. So I think a lot of good things have happened. There's more work to be done. We've got a new executive director of human resources. She's already starting the work of
Right.
addressing questions that are coming in and already planning for next year. So I'm super proud of what's been accomplished. There's more work that needs to be done.
Well, so on that line, you've talked a lot about the creation of a compensation plan.
Yeah.
Why is that so important for MISD?
Well, I think I've said in all of our budget roadshows when I went up to the campuses.
It was fun, by the way, when you came.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and it got great feedback, which helps us make us better.
Right.
But people put a lot of mystery in the creation of a school budget, and really it is the same philosophy when you sit down to do your household budget. There's what do you have to do, what are the things you'd like to do, and what are the things you'd love to do. And it's not unlimited resources, so at some point the resources are finite. And if you're doing too many things you'd love to do, but not the things you have to do, then you get in a bad spot in your household budget. And it happens with your district budget as well. And if you don't start off with a compensation plan, then by the time you spend in all the other things you'd like to do or love to do,
Right.
then all of a sudden your employees are left as not the highest priority. And our employees are excellent. We have to make our pay commensurate and competitive. And so when you do the compensation plan before you present the final budget to the board, then it locks in that commitment. It becomes the priority. Our people, our employees become the priority,
Right.
and the board is very focused, and they have celebrated that. And then the other part of the compensation plan is that I want to take the mystery out of how people get compensated. I've had so many employees say, Dr. Morrison, I got hired at the same time that someone else did, but they're getting paid more, but we have the same years experience, same certifications. Right. And we need to look into that. And it starts off with equipping our employees with the information that they need to ask those questions. Or, someone might say, hey, I've been in Montgomery all my career. Somebody came in from the outside, and yet they're making more.
Right.
And so it's appropriate. And Dr. Meeker, it's part of what the work that is ongoing is there's a term I like to, say psychological safety. And it's not just, I have an open door policy, feel free to say whatever. People need to feel like it's safe to be able to raise questions or to
Right.
say that I'm not sure that's the right direction. And there's nothing that's more personal or important for an employee to be able to say, I have a question about, or I have a concern, or I think you may have got it wrong, than your paycheck. And so we want to, through the compensation plan, the salary letters, give our employees the information that they need to make sure that we're getting it right. And that if we're not, then as quickly as we can make corrections. So it's been an immense amount of work. I really want to lift up our interim HR director, Chris Lynn. He will
Right.
want no credit for it, but without his leadership, that would not have happened. And really, my senior team, the principals, the board, it's just been a huge focus. And there's more work to be done.
Now, on the line of budget, we've heard that there's dollars that are coming from the federal government with, I guess it's called SSER
SR.
grants.
Yeah.
Right. Will that impact the school district?
Yes, and I'm going to try to put my happy face on because I'm a little frustrated. So, as I'm sure people saw, the federal government passed federal relief, CARES Act, and part of that was a sizable amount of money that came to K-12 education across the country.
Right.
The state of Texas received, I think, in excess of $17 billion, which is a lot of money. And so the challenge with ESSER is that it gets distributed based on federal formulas, very much focused on poverty. So the higher poverty rate of students that you serve in a district, the more dollars that you're going to get. Now, I've led large districts in my career, and I've led mostly large districts with high numbers of students impacted by poverty, mobility,
right.
English as a second language. Those students need more resources at school to have the same expectations that we have on all students. We have to give our kids who come to school with less more at school. So I am a believer, and I do think it's right to have a weighted student formula. I think the challenge that I have, and I think our board has lifted up in our conversations in our public meetings, is that the money was distributed for COVID, and COVID impacted all students,
everybody, right.
all schools, all school districts. And so while I appreciate that there should be some looking and examination of more money for students who were impacted in our poverty-stricken communities, when you look at how the money that you're getting from ESSER
right.
doesn't have to be spent on those students, that once you get the money based on that federal formula, you have a lot of latitude on how it could be spent. So if you are a school district that, say, 50% serving poverty students and 50% of students not impacted by poverty, you get a big amount of money for the amount of poverty students that you're
right.
serving, but then you can spread it across your school
all
districts.
Students, right.
Hire more employees, more programs, technology. There's a lot of things that you can do. So we are getting some money. We're still trying to figure out what are the restrictions, how we commingle those funds with our operating dollars,
right.
but I have raised some concerns, and our board has been very much the same mindset that there is a distribution of these dollars that I think we need to be very thoughtful of in the state of Texas.
Very good. Let's change the subject a little bit. Now, anyone who's been in the housing market here recently
Yeah.
knows that real estate is really active in our area.
Great to be a seller, not so much to be a buyer right now.
Exactly, yeah. You asked the board not too long ago to support a demographic study.
Yeah.
And facilities assessment this year. Has this information come in, and how have those reports been presented?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Meeker, one of the things that I've tried to say since coming in and doing my entry plan and being a thoughtful listener and trying to hear about some of the concerns is a concern around transparency and, you know, making sure that we communicate to our public when we make decisions that we are doing it in a very transparent way and that we're doing it with data, and that the
right.
data isn't what we say it is, but we can, you know, third party validate that the data is important and critical and authentic. And so we did in October. I went to the board and asked for a demographic study. What that means is it's really a population study. What is over the next 10 years the expectation mm-hmm. of families moving in? How many of those families potentially are going to have school-aged children? And where do we see the highest growth? Right. If in fact we're going to experience growth. And so that information came around March. We presented it to the board. We've actually had 2 presentations of those data to the board. We've actually shared it amongst our community, the city, county officials. And so what's very encouraging is we are going to continue to be a growing school district. There are 3 models that they've done: low growth, moderate growth, and high growth. And so they feel very confident that over the next 10 years we will see quite a bit of growth.
Right.
Even if you do the low or moderate growth, it means that we're going to have to start planning for some capacity issues at our elementary schools, potentially down the road at our junior highs. We know we have a Lake Creek issue in terms of there's a second phase of Lake Creek, and there's a lot of students moving into that attendance zone. So that demographic study showing growth is a good thing, but it creates some challenges that we're going to have
right.
to problem solve for. And then we also have a facilities assessment, and that was something else we asked the board to do, and they were great about saying, yeah, we absolutely need it. So this facilities assessment examines every facility we own, our campuses, our bus transportation lots,
right.
this building, and they really do an assessment of what are the needs to make sure that our schools are conducive to learning, that the air quality is right, our HVAC systems are operational, that we have the right infrastructure for technology, all the things that impact teaching and learning. And all those data will be compiled, and that will go to the board in June. So at that point, we'll have a good sense of growth, where it's going to be found in our district, facility needs and deferred maintenance, and what does that look like. And then at that point, we'll have data to make decisions that
Right.
will be of importance to the future of Montgomery ISD.
So those decisions are forthcoming then
There'll be a
as it
lot of
comes.
conversations with our board, a lot of conversations with our community, but again, it'll be based around data, and
Right.
we'll let the data really be able to be transparent and readily accessible.
Well, now speaking of the board, we recently had elections. That was on early
Yeah.
part of May. Mr. Trey Kirby and Ms. Linda Porton, they were both re-elected to 3-year terms. Talk a little bit about the board, the work that they do, priorities moving forward.
Well, congratulations to Ms. Porton and Mr. Kirby. They took this very seriously, and it was very important to them, and so congratulations. I also am very appreciative of other individuals who ran for the board, Mr. Grimes and Ms. Sato. All of them were running for the board for the same reason. They have a servant mindset.
Right.
They care about our school district, and so we're very fortunate the caliber of people that we have who are serving on our school board. It was one of the things when I was first approached about this job as a superintendent. You want to know, well, who's on the board, and it's not about anything else other than, are they on the board to serve? Are they on the board
Right.
to make sure that we've got the best school district and programs for all kids and doing the things we need to do to support our teachers? So what I'm very fortunate is that we have 7 people on our board. They all have differences of opinion. They all come with different questions, but they all really come with that servant leadership, that mindset of how we can, not why we can't. They've been very encouraging this whole year. And they've been put into some tough situations, mask mandates, and
Right.
that they had no authority at the beginning where it was their call, and then all of a sudden it became their call. And just this whole year dealing with all the things that we talked about at the beginning of our time together, they've had to live through. But through their leadership, we have balanced the budget. We've given some really strong pay raises. We're on, right at the culmination of presenting another balanced budget, and
Right.
we're on the, eve of presenting a strategic plan, and all that's happened with their leadership. So I hope that people in this community recognize what school board members do. It is enormous amounts of hours. There's no compensation. You just have to really have a heart for service and a desire to make education better for kids and support teachers. And we've got 7 people that do that every day in Montgomery ISD. We're very fortunate.
Very well. There's been a lot of talk about strategic plans
Yeah.
this year. So how's that going, and how will it impact the district in general, the employees in particular?
I am really excited because there have been times this year with all of the other things going on. I was like, is this really the right time to be looking at our strategic direction? But it really, I was been talking to our principals about how much they've embraced the opportunity to co-lead these task forces and our senior teams, and these task forces that are built around the 5 goals that our board passed in October. How to create great programs and ensure amazing instructional opportunities for all students, Goal 1. Goal 2 around safety and security of our students and staff. Goal 3 around efficient and effective use of our resources to maximize learning. Goal 4 around human capital and attracting, retaining, and growing our employees. And Goal 5 around culture, communication, and customer service. And so these task forces grew from 15 to 20 people on them to over 40 or 50, and it was teachers and support staff and parents and business leaders and people that just have an interest in our school
Right.
district. And we've had town halls, and we've had multitudes of meetings, we've had surveys, we've cast this wide net, and the interest and the involvement and the engagement have been phenomenal. And so we are just finishing up the draft plan to present to the board, get more input from them. But really, at its culmination, it will give us a strategic direction. When we talk about being the premier school district in the state of Texas, and people say, well, what does that mean? Well, there's going to be this plan that's going to really kind of articulate what that means. And the strategic plan is, well, if that's the destination, then where are we starting,
Right.
and how do you get there? And so there's going to be alignment with school improvement plans and department plans, and there will be ways that we'll be presenting data to our board and our community that I think will give people a really good sense of how we're doing. And its alignment to the budget will also make sure that we don't have a plan that just sits on a shelf, but that really leads us and guides us and
Right.
takes us to where we need to go. So I could not be more excited, and there's been tremendous work and effort on that plan. So very grateful to everyone who's been involved in that.
Very good. This year we've all had to learn new things on the
Yeah.
fly. myself. I've proven that even an old dog can learn new tricks.
A veteran seasoned teacher of what, maybe 20 years?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
20 years ago, it was 20 years. Anyway, we've
Dr.
navigated.
We got to tell a story on you, because when I was doing the budget roadshows and people were asking, well, why does our salary scale end at 22 steps? And we were like, well, at some point you have to do a cutoff, and they're like, well, why not just to the last one? I'm like, well, we've got people that have actually been in service in over 30, 35 years, and people kept on lifting you up, and I was like, nah, Dr. Meeker isn't even in the top 5 in terms of length of service. So I've tried to put those rumors out just to let you know.
That was a futile effort, I think.
Getting better and better, sir.
This was 41 years for me today. Anyway, looking forward, where do we stand with things like block scheduling, online learning, mask mandates, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, there's a lot. So the mask mandate, our board took a vote in March, and they stated that as of May 31st,
right.
We will be mask optional. So as of May 31st, people will absolutely be able to wear masks if they feel that that's what they need to do to feel comfortable and safe at school. But as of May 31st, they will be optional. I was thinking about this because the governor recently came out with another mandate
right.
that said as of June 4th, no one can require masks be mandated, I think, in places of employment or buildings, campuses, schools. Mm-hmm. And so our board was even ahead of that. So right. May 31st versus June 4th. So that's masks. In terms of block scheduling, when I first came last year, the district had already made a decision to do block scheduling. In a lot of ways, it was the right schedule for this
right.
year. I'm not even sure if we could have done the enormous amount of things that we had to do without the block schedule when we were doing remote and in person. Right. But what I did make a commitment to our teachers and talking to them and our administrators was that we would make a collective decision on that. It wasn't people were oppositional to the block schedule. They felt like they didn't have a voice in it. So this spring, we got our campus principals together, our secondary campus principals, schedulers, and we talked about different options. Our campus principals and schedulers went back to our secondary schools, engaged our employees, and really said, what is the preference? Is it an 8-period block schedule? Is it a
right.
straight 8-period day? Is it a different variation of block scheduling? And the decision reached to the consensus amongst our 4 secondary schools was to do a traditional 8-period day. So we're going to do that for the upcoming year. We want to make sure our employees feel like they were heard. But again, we'll always explore that, and it doesn't mean that that's what we're doing in the future, but we listen to our employees, and that's what we will do next year. As far as remote, I don't believe that TEA is going to require us to do remote in the way that we did it, and I've already committed to all of our employees, but especially secondary teachers,
right.
Please hear this, there will not be a hybrid expectation like there was this year. But what we do want to do is to think about, are there ways now that we have this muscle memory and new skill set of remote that we could do things to extend the school day? Are there things that we could do to extend learning opportunities when students are missing time? Are
right.
there aspects of remote learning that we can add to our repertoire to make us a better school district? So we are still examining those, but we're making some decisions in terms of how we're going to approach that. But I don't think it will look anything like it did this year.
One of the things kind of along that same line that I think people have, maybe if there's a positive thing that's come out of having to be remote, is that, parent meetings by Zoom seem to be really quite popular, particularly ARD and 504 meetings.
Sure.
And, parents don't have to leave work to come up to the school or leave home. And I think a lot of teachers sometimes feel like it even utilizes their time better in the Zoom. So do you anticipate that as continuing, at least the option having it to continue?
I think sometimes, if we're always completely honest with ourselves in education, we are very change resistant sometimes, and we like what we like, and we know
right.
what we know. And
we've always done it that way.
We've always done it that way, so it's not that that's the best way, but it's the way we've always done it. So I think this year really forced us to change. We didn't have an option, and so
right.
the change process really starts with a sense of urgency, and I don't think you can get a bigger sense of urgency than the way COVID hit in the spring of last year. So we've had to change some things, and we have developed new skill sets, and we've learned that you don't have to necessarily have an ARD or a meeting in person.
Right.
That we can do some things with remote. and Zoom and conferencing that really is more respectful of teacher schedules and employee schedules and parent schedules. So I hope we will continue to do that. We have some work to do with our technology infrastructure to really support that. We need to look at our technology infrastructure. We need to do more professional development for our employees. That's super respectful to do that. And then we also need to do more with technology and devices. But yeah, I absolutely believe that those things are going to continue, and they'll just make us better, because what a shame if we develop these skills and then just don't use them again and we lose them. So it's,
Right.
I think it's important for us. We will continue to be a continuous improvement organization, so we always have to learn.
Very good. You know, it's been nice to see you on our campus frequently, just visiting
Best part of the
classes.
job.
And so just talk a little bit about your impression of teachers and the quality of education that you've seen this year.
You know, it's having a lot of districts in the past, you always hear about great teachers at a campus, or you hear about strong principals at a campus. What really was interesting to me coming in was in talking to over 1,000 people in phone calls and meetings in my entry, was overwhelming. I kept hearing about great employees, always hearing about great teachers, you know, strong administrators, and just visiting classroom after classroom and, you know, seeing teachers up and doing the things that they were doing, and sometimes having to do them differently. You know, when you're doing small group instruction in a world of COVID, it looked a lot different.
Right.
Kindergarten rotations, physics labs. But no matter what the challenge was, to seeing amazing teachers respond to it, and still, you know, always thinking about how to bring the best instruction, personalized learning, scaffold of the instruction, differentiate the lesson, and being so positive about it. And you know, I really do. Every day I'm probably called at least 2 superintendents across the country, oftentimes maybe more. And I will say, there were days where, you know, the number one thing that a lot of these superintendents were talking about was just the pressure of this year, which has been felt across the country, really weighing on their teachers to the point where they were concerned about how that was affecting kids in the classroom.
Right.
I was always worried about the impact of this year and the pressure of this year on our employees and our teachers, but I never questioned that commitment to the instructional program and to service our students, because I saw it every time I walked into a school and every time I went into a class. So I say this a lot, you know, Dr. Meeker, I don't learn a lot about an organization initially when everything's great. But when there are challenges, you really learn about the leadership and the commitment, the core values, and how fortunate we are for the employees of this district, the teachers that we have, the administrators, great students, great communities. We have a lot to be thankful for, and I am eternally grateful. It has been an amazing opportunity to come into this district and be a part of it.
Great. I agree with you. We are very blessed here.
We really are.
For many reasons. We have a new Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education, Carrie Fitzpatrick. Talk about this position and what her responsibilities are going to be.
Yeah, you know, first of all, I want to acknowledge Wendy Graves, who has been our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary. Wendy has, you know, had a long tenure in Montgomery ISD and being a educator and principal, and now spending years working at the district office. And so I hope we all really welcome this next step in her leadership journey and the things that she's going to be doing, and very grateful for her leadership. And it's a nice opportunity now to have upward mobility and to promote one of our outstanding principals, Carrie Fitzpatrick. Carrie has done an amazing job. She is at a Title I campus, and it's a campus that offers dual language and other programs. And you know, Carrie is just really a steadfast leader. She's got great core values. She respects her employees. She supports her students. Just all the things that are so important about leadership, Carrie just really exudes. And I'm really excited about coming into this district level position and building off the work and leading our elementary schools into the next great charge.
Great. Now we have several other new folks that have stepped up to some administrative spots. Amanda Davis Somerville, new Director of Technology and Digital Learning. Elena Simmonsma, Coordinator of 504 and Dyslexia Services. Amy Vance, Director of Career and Technical Education, CTE. Denise Miller, Executive Director of Human Capital. Talk about these folks just a little bit, and has there been a difference in the way that hiring has been done?
Yes, most definitely. What I'll say, and I just want to make sure our Executive Director of Human Resources is Denise Miner.
Right, Denise Miner.
Yeah, all
what did I say? I said the wrong thing.
Strong leaders, and they're going to bring so much to their new roles. And when I say new roles, in the case of Human Resources and Technology, they filled vacant positions with 504 and dyslexia. That was the creation of a new position built around data and need. I'm super excited because we're doing a lot of good things, but there's additional supports that are needed, and so that position is going to be a really welcome addition to our special education leadership. Amy Vance and CTE, when you see the strategic plan, there's going to be a huge commitment. We do a great job of getting kids ready for college and ready for college on day one without needing remediation, and ready for the military. And there's doing strong things in CTE, but I think this community really wants us to even take that to another level. And so we've had directors of CTE in the past, and for budget reasons, we've not had that position. So being able to bring that position back and the leadership that will come from it. So all of these leaders are very strong. They, again, core values, servant leadership, are all things that they want to be collaborative leaders, and I can't wait for them to start. Matter of fact, several of them have already started. Is there been any difference in how those positions were hired? Again, we have to be a continuous improvement organization, and as I came into my entry, one of the things that just kept coming up over and over again, talking to employees and parents, was a sense that sometimes positions didn't always get posted. And even if they were posted, they weren't posted where they should be and for as long as they should be, or they weren't sourced appropriately, or that we didn't really have a process, or potentially concerns that positions were promised to people before we even actually posted the position. And
it was fluid, it seemed like.
Yeah, and so we did bring in TASB to come in and do an HR review, and they did say that we have a lot of room to improve in those areas. And so for all positions in our district, all positions, unless we're having an overage of folks that we have an obligation to place, all positions are posted, and there will be a process to getting it filled, especially for some of these key leadership positions. They will all follow a similar process of we will post the position, we will keep it open for at least 10 days, more often than not longer. We'll source it everywhere we can, internally and externally, to ensure we have the best candidates. There will be an initial group of people, including folks from our HR department, that will screen to look at the qualifications, the job description versus a match of applicants. And then there will be a determination of as many qualified candidates as feasible to bring in for an initial panel. And those panels will have people that have a background to be able to give us guidance in terms of moving candidates forward. So, for example, the Assistant Superintendent of Elementary, which Carrie Fitzpatrick ultimately was selected for, we had another principal on that panel. We had coaches, teachers, just people who are going to be impacted by that position, who have a mindset to be able to say, well, here are qualities that we should be looking for. And then there's another selection of a smaller group that gives me recommendation. Oftentimes I'll sit on that, and any position that I actually have to take to the board in a high-level leadership, I will always be the final interview person, because I have to give a recommendation to the board that that's the person we should hire. So I'm proud of the process we put into place. We're continuing to make those processes better, but it's just really important that when we put forward somebody for an important leadership position, or any position in Montgomery ISD, that there's transparency, that there's a process, and that people can feel good about the process.
I think that's great. Yeah. Let's look forward to next year a little bit.
Sure.
21, 22. Yeah. What goals do you have as we come out of the COVID era and move forward?
You know, I almost hesitate to say a return to normalcy, because we've evolved as an organization, and there are, to your point around the Zoom and using technology in different ways. It's not about going back to the way it was, but I do think this year has just felt like one challenge after another, and even COVID, it's not been the same challenge because of new guidance, new regulations, having to do vaccinations, and all the things that. So I'm looking forward to some stability for next year, where we can kind of do a reset, really get a sense of, when we get our data back from STAR testing, how much learning loss was there,
Right.
We can look at our new strategic plan and we can baseline the data and say, well, this is where we are, this is where we're trying to get to, and really making sure we're being thoughtful about that. I'm looking forward to the things that are being in that plan and sharing that plan with our employees, because in every one of those goals, there's things that I think people are going to appreciate. So for example, in goal 1, there are going to be strategies around how do we really bring consistency to our RTI process. Everyone understands the need for RTI,
Right.
but there's inconsistency across our 10 campuses on how that's administered. So how do we bring greater consistency and support so that's done really well? In goal 2, there's a big focus around psychological and social emotional safety for our students and staff. So how does that roll out and what does that look like? I look at something in goal 4 that I think is going to be very topical for us, which is how to create a culture of respect. And we're going to bring employees together and talk about what is a respectful culture and how does every employee, from a principal to the superintendent, to a teacher, to a campus assistant principal, to a bus driver, to a cafeteria worker, how do we all operate in a very respectful culture that we all feel valued and not only listened to but heard? And then there's going to be a lot of focus around communication and collaboration and building a really, really strong positive culture, adding to the strong culture that we already have, but taking it to the next level. So I could not be more excited. I hope everyone gets a really great vacation and gets some rest, because
Right.
it's going to be a super exciting school year next year.
It will be really fun to come back and not have some of these other things to deal with.
Knock on wood.
Yes. As you've said, it's been an unprecedented year. Now, coming in as a new superintendent, what have you learned about this district?
Resiliency. I can't emphasize it enough. I kept on worrying, is this going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back?
Right.
It's just, and again, just looking at what's happening in other school districts across Texas and across the country, it just, the way this district responded, the employees that we have, the teachers that we have, the servant leadership that each of these employees brings, the care that we have for our students, that we have these great students and community members that really appreciate the school district. And it's, I heard about it, I felt it, I saw it, and it's something we can never take for granted, because the minute you start taking it for granted, you start to lose it. So to recognize that we have these amazing, resilient employees that have just dealt with an unprecedented year,
Right.
But in the most positive of ways, and we've gotten through that, and now we've got this really strong, bright future with a North Star for a strategic plan, and we're going to set really big aspirational goals. In the private sector they would call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, but they're aspirational but achievable, and they're achievable because of the employees that we have, the community that we serve, and how we're just going to do this in a very collaborative way. But the resiliency and the servant leadership of our employees, amazing.
You have any final words you want to say before we break for the summer?
Just thank you. And it sounds trite to say it, but there are not words to express. I get to hear a superintendent one community meetings just about every night. I get to hear these community members say, I could not be more impressed with our teachers. I was talking to some parents yesterday that are just coming into our school district, and they've been here 1 week, and already in 1 week, the differences that they've seen with how our school district operates to others. It has been a very, very challenging year, but everybody has been how we can, not why we can't. And so on behalf of our board, on behalf of this community, I just want to thank our employees. You've been phenomenal. Please get your rest. Take some time off the train, recharge, rest, and just come back and be ready for an amazing 2021-2022 school year. And thanks to you, Dr. Meeker, because this is a little side gig for you, but I've enjoyed our opportunities to have these conversations, and I always hear really positive things afterwards. You make me sound a little smarter, and that's not easy to do, but I do appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you and talk about our school district and where we are and where we're going, and I'm very grateful to you and your awesome years of service, but I'm not going to say how many. So.
Well, thank you very much, and we do thank you too. You going to get to travel any this summer? Are you got any plans?
I am. My daughter got accepted to law school, so we will be traveling out to Oregon, and she's going to be going to
nice.
university there, and so future lawyer. So yeah.
Terrific.
So road tripping out there.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. And to all you Bears and Lions, we'll see you in the fall.
Have a great summer.